Imagine for a second that you are the single most prominent and influential Orthodox Jewish voice in conservative media. Now, also imagine that you are almost single-handedly responsible for building someone up who has become the single most influential and powerful anti-Semitic voice, not only in conservative media, but probably in the entire country. Well, welcome to the world of Ben Shapiro. Someone who can put even Dr. Frankenstein to shame. I mean, at least Frankenstein's monster had some semblance of a moral compass. But today, we're actually talking about Candace Owens, the aforementioned anti-Semite, and how Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire helped her become a conservative superstar.
Listen, I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. Actually, what I am is I am somebody who has left the cult of science. I have left the mega church of science.
Now, I personally had never heard of the term round earther, but now that I know that that term exists, you should probably be a round earther. Why should we care? I mean, she's not the only crazy person out there. There's a bunch of assholes out there spouting God knows what. But we have to care about Candace Owens because she actually has influence. She's got 5.5 million followers on Twitter, over 2 million followers on YouTube, and it's clear that lots of people actually believe the stuff that she's saying. Now, a lot of folks say that we should just ignore her and not give her any more attention. And, you know, I'm sympathetic to that argument. But the truth is that she's getting plenty of attention with or without us. So it's important for us to know who she is and the kinds of beliefs that she's introducing into the public consciousness. Let's explore some of her greatest hits, shall we? She's argued that French President Macron's wife is secretly a man.
She's not a man,
Yeah,
she's
sure.
a woman.
I'm happy to answer the question. I think Brigitte Macron is a trans woman, and I think the fact that when Brigitte Macron... Okay.
During a Turning Point UK event, she said,
Hitler, you know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
Right, Candace. That's the problem with Hitler, that he wanted globalism.
I've been under so much fire for questioning World War II narratives.
The so-called intelligent commentary that first brought her to public attention was in a viral video where she attacked Black Lives Matter for not protesting at every Planned Parenthood in the country.
Black Lives Matter is actually harmful to Black lives. And I will say this also, I will not whatsoever, ever take Black Lives Matter seriously, because if Black Lives mattered to Black Lives Matter, we would be talking about abortion.
Now, there are plenty of reasonable approaches to critiquing the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, I've critiqued them in certain ways myself. But saying that they don't care about Black people because they are not pro-life is not a legitimate argument. Owens famously faced backlash for defending Kanye West after his anti-Semitic tweets, claiming that what he said wasn't that deep and was being blown out of proportion by the media. Now, of course, what Kanye West said was that he was going to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, among a whole host of other horrific things. But what's the role of the Daily Wire here? Well, even though they had plenty of evidence that she wasn't a thoughtful or nuanced person, the Daily Wire gave Candace her own show, creatively titled Candace. Ben Shapiro was willing to put up with her support for Kanye West's anti-Semitism. But when she stopped hiding the ball entirely and started to openly attack Jews after October 7th, that was finally a bridge too far, and the Daily Wire and Candace Owens ended up breaking up.
The conservative commentator is out after an ongoing beef with her boss, Ben Shapiro, over the Israel-Hamas war.
But of course, it was too late. Frankenstein's monster had, in some circles, actually become more popular than her own creator. She didn't need the Daily Wire anymore to get her views across to a wider audience.
Are you anti-Semitic?
No, I'm not anti-Semitic.
Go on.
Go on with what? You asked me a question, I answered it.
You said
I don't need to
not
launch into defense of myself because I'm just not anti-Semitic. There's nothing that I hear that I need to add. I guess today anti-Semitism, the definition keeps expanding, and now I guess it means if you don't fall over yourself every time Bibi Netanyahu speaks, they're just going to call you an anti-Semite.
And of course, she's not stopping. Recently, Candace Owens did another interview with a lovely guy named Andrew Tate, who is actually under house arrest now for allegedly being a pedophile and sex trafficker, which, by the way, is all the things that she accuses Jews of doing. So a little bit of a cognitive dissonance there. I'm not going to make you watch the whole interview. It's about 2 hours, but I did pick out a few specific parts that I thought were interesting.
So, like, is that any better?
Well,
like,
why
is that
are
worse?
Western politicians gay? That's another thing, and that is what kind of leads me to believe that a lot of these people are being blackmailed and they're being selected for these positions. I mean, Emmanuel Macron is a homosexual. There's no question about that. Zelensky is a homosexual. You've got
I might have a few questions about that.
I was going to say, I almost said Fidel Castro. Trudeau, Fidel's son. You got Trudeau, he's a homosexual.
Yeah.
Barack Obama was a homosexual.
Yeah.
And then finally, when we get in the West.
She's literally just like listing any leader she doesn't like. You know, anyone that I don't like is a homosexual. What's so weird to me about this is just like this utter obsession with people's sexual orientation. Like, that's just such a weird thing to be obsessed about because it has absolutely no bearing on someone's beliefs, on what they do, on their efficacy, on their competence. They're just obsessed with trying to make people's private lives public. You know, there's some secret thing that people are hiding, and if we find that thing, then that explains everything that's happening in the world, right? And somehow the fact that, you know, they believe that all these Western politicians are gay explains all of their problems with the world's geopolitics, right? It's so much simpler, honestly, like, right, to think about it in those terms than to actually try to grapple with the complexities of global geopolitics.
As a president who's definitely not a homosexual, Donald Trump, they just freak out. They completely lose their minds. This guy cannot be president. He's not allowed to be president.
Right. That's why people don't like Donald Trump, because he's not gay. That's the only reason people don't want him to be president. Nothing to do with January 6th or, you know, any number of other issues. It's just that he's not gay, guys. Like, that is the only reason people can be against him.
State thing is not a conspiracy theory. It's part of the reason why they didn't want Tucker to conduct that interview with Putin, because the first thing Putin said is like, you know, I don't deal with your president. I'm dealing with the CIA.
Yeah.
Right. That is the deep state. He's like, he couldn't
The
even
president, I don't talk to him.
The CIA is who's controlling your nations, which means that our democracy, the republic, it's an illusion.
Yep.
That is the key thesis and the key point to remember about Candace Owens, that she believes that. People like Candace Owens, people like Andrew Tate, not only are they malevolent actors and whatnot, they're also useful idiots for dictators like Vladimir Putin, because what Putin wants to do is he wants to convince the world that he is no different from any other leader, that Russia is no better or worse than the United States. And if Russia is controlled to some extent, or to the pretty much entirety extent, by the FSB, then America must be controlled by the CIA. I want to be clear. Freedom of speech is one of my and RDI's most critical values. Candace Owens has the legal right to say everything that she's saying, but the Daily Wire and any other organization has no obligation to give her a platform. Today, the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro can try to distance themselves all they want, but they can't escape the simple fact that they were the ones who created this particular monster. The question all of us have to answer is, what kind of voices are we elevating today? And what will the consequences be tomorrow?